Welcome, my friends. What if I told you the man who wrote the world's most famous book on success once lay in a hospital bed with a crushed face, unable to remember the year, and was so broken he could even breathe on his own? This is not a motivational speech. This is not fiction. This is real. Today, you will hear the story of a boy who had his future stolen in 1 second. A boy who had to relearn how to walk, how to see, and how to live. But why should you listen to this story? Because this is not just about a book called Atomic Habits. This story is the blueprint for anyone who feels stuck, for anyone who has tried to change their life and failed, for anyone who feels that they are too far behind to ever catch up. And yes, this story will also improve your English. How? Because you are not just studying words. You are absorbing a life philosophy. You are listening to a story that connects with your pain and your hope. That is the secret to deep learning. Not memorizing rules, but feeling the rhythm of a story that matters. So listen closely, because the principles in this story might not just teach you English. They might save your future. Now, let's begin the story of the man who built a new life, one tiny piece at a time. Part 1. The Crash and the Darkness. Let's go back to the year 2002. We are in a high school in Ohio. It is the last day of the sophomore year. The sun is shining. The air is warm. A boy named James Clear is standing on a baseball field. He is young, healthy, and full of dreams. He holds a baseball bat. He feels strong. But life has a way of changing in a single heartbeat. In 2002, James is a high school student. A baseball bat slips from a teammate's hands and flies through the air. It spins like a helicopter blade. It hits James directly in the face. His nose is crushed into a U shape. His brain slams against the inside of his skull. In 1 second, his life is broken. There is blood everywhere. The smell of iron fills the air. He doesn't know it yet, but the person he was a moment ago is gone. He is rushed to the nurse's office. But he is confused. The world is spinning. The nurse looks at him with worried eyes and asks, "What year is it?" James tries to think. His brain feels like it is swimming in fog. He says, 1998. It was actually 2002. He had lost 4 years of his memory in an instant. The nurse asks another question. Who is the President of the United States? James blinks. He sees her face moving, but the words are slow. He says, Bill Clinton. It was actually George Bush. He is failing. His body is shutting down. An ambulance arrives. They rush him to the hospital. But the nightmare is just beginning. His brain begins to swell. The pressure inside his skull is rising like a ticking bomb. He stops breathing on his own. The doctors have to hook him up to a ventilator just to keep oxygen flowing to his dying body. Let me tell you the truth. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Your dreams are not the problem. Your daily routine is. But right now, James has no routine. He has no system. He has only survival. That night, he has 3 seizures. His body shakes violently. His parents stand by the bed, terrified, watching their son fade away. They wonder if he will ever be normal again. They wonder if he will ever wake up. James sits in the hospital or lies there, trapped in the dark. He is trapped inside a mind that no longer works, pretending he is okay. while his world disappears. He is released from the hospital days later, but he is not the same. When he goes home, he realizes the full extent of the damage. He cannot drive a car. He cannot see straight. He has double vision. Every time he looks at the world, he sees two of everything. It is dizzying. It is nauseating. One day, something horrific happens. He blows his nose, and the air pressure from his crushed face forces his eyeball out of its socket. Yes, his eye bulges out of his head. It is a moment of pure horror. He is pushed back into surgery. More pain, more recovery, more time lost. He returns to the baseball team a year later, but he is not a star anymore. He is the guy who sits on the bench. He is the guy who was broken. For a young man who dreamed of being a professional athlete, this is a death of the soul. Maybe you are watching this right now, and you feel like James. You feel broken. Your progress is slow. You are trying to survive a day that feels too heavy to carry. I understand. You look at others succeeding, running fast, speaking perfectly, making money, and you look at yourself struggling just to stand up. You feel like you are miles behind in a race you never asked to run. But stay with me, because this is where the magic begins. Imagine trying to rebuild your life when you can even see straight. James had double vision. Every step felt like walking through deep mud. That is the weight of a major setback. Most people in this situation would give up. They would say, "I am a victim. Life is unfair." They would become bitter. They would lower their expectations and accept a small, sad life. But James did something different. He didn't try to become a superhero overnight. He didn't set a goal to fix everything in a week. James is finally home, but he is weak. And yet, at this moment, he makes a strange decision. He doesn't try to be a hero. He decides to go to sleep early every night. He decides to keep his room clean. Tiny, boring things. He decides to prepare his bag for the next day. He decides to lift weights, but only a little bit. Why? Because he realized that he couldn't control his injury. He couldn't control his double vision. He couldn't control the seizures. But he could control what time he went to bed. He could control if his room was tidy. He started focusing on the only thing he had left: small habits. He didn't know it then, but he was discovering a law of the universe. You are not your injury. You are not your past failures. You are the architect of what happens next. James wasn't just cleaning a room, he was rebuilding a man. Slowly, over weeks, months, and years, these tiny habits began to compound. Like interest in a bank account. A clean room gave him a clear mind. Sleeping early gave his brain time to heal. Small workouts made his body strong again. He went to college at Denison University. He kept building his small systems, while other students stayed up late partying and eating junk food. James stuck to his routine, not because he was boring, but because his routine was his lifeline. It was the only thing holding him together. 6 years after his face was smashed by a baseball bat, something incredible happened. James Clear was named the top male athlete at his university. He was named an ESPN Academic All-American. He just recover. He excelled. He didn't do it with one magic pill. He didn't do it with a sudden burst of motivation. He did it by stacking one tiny, boring habit on top of another for 2,000 days. And this led him to ask a question. If small habits could save my life, what could they do for a team? What could they do for a business? What could they do for you? This leads us to one of the most famous stories in his book, The Story of British Cycling. Part 2, The Miracle of the White Room. Let's leave James for a moment and travel to Great Britain. The year is 2003. For 100 years, British cycling was a joke. They were so bad that a bike manufacturer refused to sell them bikes. They were afraid it would hurt their sales if people saw the British team using them. It was a total humiliation. Think about that. A professional team that was so embarrassing. Companies didn't want their logo near them. They had won only one single gold medal in the Olympic Games since 1908. One medal in 100 years. They were the definition of losers. The organization was desperate. So they hired a man named Dave Brailsford. Dave was different. He didn't talk about passion or dreaming big. He talked about something he called the aggregation of marginal gains. That's a fancy way of saying the gathering of tiny improvements. Most teams focus on winning the gold medal, but Dave Brailsford focused on the dust inside the truck. He painted the walls white just to see tiny bits of dust that could slow down the bikes. The secret isn't the big win, it's the invisible one. People thought he was crazy. Why are you painting the truck? Why aren't you riding the bikes? But Dave didn't stop there. He looked at everything. He rubbed alcohol on the tires to give them better grip. He tested different massage gels to see which one helped muscles recover faster. He hired a surgeon to teach his riders how to wash their hands properly so they wouldn't catch a cold. Imagine reading 100 books about cycling, but your tires are dirty and your pillow is uncomfortable. You will lose. The British team didn't just study, they washed their hands like surgeons to avoid getting sick. They did the push-ups of tiny details. Dave even discovered that dust accumulated on the floor of the maintenance truck could get into the finely tuned gears of the bikes. So he painted the floor pristine white. If there was dust, they saw it. They cleaned it. He found out which pillow offered the best sleep for each rider. And then he made the riders bring that specific pillow with them to every hotel. Think about the other teams. They were looking for lighter bikes. They were looking for stronger athletes. They were looking for the big breakthrough. But the British team was looking for better pillows and cleaner hands. You are about to see the truth about success. It is not a lightning bolt. It is a slow burn. The British team didn't find a magic bike. They found 1,000 tiny improvements that the world ignored. And what happened? 5 years later, at the Beijing Olympics in 2008, the British cycling team dominated the world. They won 60 of all the gold medals available. 4 years later in London, they set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. They went from being the laughing stock of the world to being the greatest team in modern history. How? Not by trying to be 100 better, but by trying to be one better in 100 different things. So now, look at your own life. Stop looking for the big miracle. Fix one small thing today. Wash your hands of your excuses. Your one is waiting. Part 3, the math of your life. Let's pause the stories for a second and look at the logic. Because your brain might be saying, okay, nice story, but does one really matter? If I study English for 5 minutes, will I really become fluent? If I save one today, will I really become rich? Let me tell you the truth. You are not building habits. Your habits are building you. If you get one better every day, you become 37 times better by the end of the year. If you get one worse, you drop to 0. Math doesn't lie. Think about that number. 37 times better. That is the difference between a person who speaks broken English and a person who speaks fluently. That is the difference between being broke and being wealthy. That is the difference between being lonely and having deep relationships. But here is the dangerous part. The reverse is also true. If you get one worse every day, you fall to 0. And getting one worse is easy. It's just missing one workout. It's just eating one extra cookie. It's just checking your phone for 2 minutes instead of working. It doesn't feel like a disaster in the moment, but over time it destroys you. And this brings us to the most painful part of changing your life: the waiting. James Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential. That sounds complicated, but is it actually very simple? It describes the moment when you are working hard, but you see no results. Imagine working for months and seeing nothing. You go to the gym, you eat healthy, you study English, and the scale doesn't move. Your tongue still freezes. You feel like a failure, standing alone in the dark while others pass you by. This is the moment where 99 of people quit. They say, "I've been running for a month. Why am I still fat?" They say, "I've been studying for 3 weeks. Why can I understand the movie?" They feel betrayed by their own effort. They feel like the world is lying to them. My friend, as someone who has struggled to learn, I promise you, the work is not wasted. It is being stored. You are not failing. You are just waiting for the temperature to hit 32 degrees. What do I mean by 32 degrees? Let me give you a metaphor that will change how you see patience. Imagine an ice cube in a cold room. The room is freezing. It is 25 degrees. The ice cube is sitting on the table. It is hard. It is cold. It is frozen. You want to melt it. So you start heating the room. You work hard. You bring in a heater. The temperature goes up to 26 degrees. You look at the ice cube. Nothing happens. You work harder. You sweat. You push. 27 degrees. Nothing. 28 degrees. Nothing. 29 degrees. Still nothing. You start to panic. You think, this is useless. I am wasting my time. 30 degrees. 31 degrees. The ice cube is still solid ice. But then, you push just one more time. 32 degrees. And suddenly, the ice begins to melt. Water starts to flow. Now ask yourself this question. Did the melting happen only at 32 degrees? No. The melting happened because of all the work you did at 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. The energy was always there, working in the silence. You are that ice cube. Your English is that ice cube. Your business is that ice cube. When you study and Dante feel improvement, you are just raising the temperature from 28 to 29. You are storing the potential energy. Do not quit at 31 degrees. Please, do not quit at 31 degrees. Because the breakthrough is just 1 degree away. This is why goals are dangerous. We obsess over the result, and we ignore the process. Forget about goals. If you were a coach and you ignored the score and focused only on practice? Would you still win? Yes. The goal is just a direction. The system is the progress. Winners and losers have the same goals. Every athlete in the Olympics wants the gold medal. Every candidate wants the job. If they all have the same goal, then the goal cannot be the thing that makes the difference. The difference is the system. The difference is the white paint in the truck. The difference is the pillow you sleep on. The difference is the 5 minutes of vocabulary you review in the toilet. What feels like a plateau is actually preparation. What feels like no progress is actually the roots of your future self growing deep into the earth. You cannot see the roots, but without them the tree falls. So trust the silence. Trust the invisibility of your growth. Part 4. The identity shift. Now we come to the deepest part of James Clear's philosophy. This is the part that changes not just what you do, but who you are. Most people try to change their life by changing their results. I want to lose 10 kilograms. I want to write a book. I want to speak English. But this is working backward. Real change doesn't start with the result. It starts with identity. Imagine a plane flying to New York. The pilot turns the nose just 3.5 degrees. No alarm, no shaking, no sound. But hours later, you land in Washington, D.C. Your destination is gone just because of one tiny, silent mistake. Your habits are the nose of that plane. A bad habit is not just a bad action, it is a vote for the wrong identity. Let me explain. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." That sounds like, now look at the second person. They say, "No thanks." A good answer, right? But it's not. I am not a smoker. It's a small difference in words. It implies that they are still a smoker who is trying to be something else. But it's a massive difference in identity. They still believe they are a smoker. The second person doesn't see themselves as a smoker anymore. Smoking is not part of who they are. Ask yourself this: who is the person I want to become? Every time you pick up a book, you are not just reading. You are casting a vote for a new identity. Who are you voting for today? Every time you go to the gym, you cast a vote for "I am an athlete." Every time you write a page, you cast a vote for "I am a writer." Every time you practice English, you cast a vote for "I am a speaker." You don't need a unanimous vote to win an election. You just need the majority. You don't have to be perfect. You just need more good votes than bad votes. But be careful. The opposite is also true. Every time you choose the easy path, you are feeding the lazy wolf. It's like giving candy to a child who needs vegetables. You are making your future self weaker with every small yes to a bad habit. Every time you scroll on social media instead of creating, you cast a vote for "I am a consumer." Every time you stay silent instead of speaking, you cast a vote for "I am afraid." And slowly, your identity shifts. You start to believe, "I am just a lazy person. I am just bad at languages. I am just not lucky." These are lies. They are lies built by bad voting. So how do we fix this? How do we start casting good votes when we are tired, stressed, and busy? James Clear gives us a weapon so simple it sounds ridiculous. The 2-minute rule. He says, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. You want to read 30 books a year? No. Your goal is to read 1 page. You want to run a marathon? No. Your goal is to put on your running shoes. You want to study English for an hour? No. Your goal is to open your notebook. You know you are tired. You know you are stressed. And yet, in this moment, you make a strange decision. You choose to do 2 minutes of work. Just 2 minutes. It sounds too small to matter, but it changes everything. Why? Because the hardest part of any habit is starting. The friction is at the beginning. Once you put on your shoes, running is easier. Once you open the book, reading is easier. Once you are in the car, driving to the gym is easier. The 2-minute rule overcomes the fear of starting. It makes the task so small that you cannot say no. Can I read 1 page? Yes, of course. Can I put on my shoes? Yes, of course. I know it feels silly to only study for 2 minutes. I know you want to do more. But we are building the habit of showing up. We are in this together, one tiny step at a time. A habit must be established before it can be improved. You cannot optimize a habit that doesn't exist. You can become a master of English if you done. Become a master of showing up. So master the first 2 minutes. Become the person who shows up. Even on bad days. Even when you are sick. Even when you are busy. Do 2 minutes. Cast that vote. Prove to yourself that you are not the person who quits. Part 5. The environment of success. We talked about identity. We talked about small steps. Now let's talk about the invisible hand that controls you. Your environment. Many people think they lack motivation, but James Clear says, motivation is overrated. Environment matters more. Imagine you want to eat more fruit, but the apples are hidden in the bottom drawer of your fridge, and the cookies are sitting right on the counter. What will you eat? You will eat the cookies, not because you are a weak person, but because the cookies are visible and easy. The apples are invisible and hard. Human behavior is driven by what we see. If you want to change your habits, you must redesign your world. Make the good habits obvious. Make the bad habits invisible. If you want to practice guitar, put the guitar in the middle of your living room. Don't to hide it in the closet. If you want to drink more water, put water bottles everywhere. On your desk, by your bed, in your car. If you want to stop checking your phone, leave it in another room. James tells a story about a hospital in Boston. The doctor wanted people to drink more water and less soda. She didn't give a lecture. She didn't tell people soda is bad, she just changed the room. She added water baskets to every food station. She put water at eye level in the fridges. And guess what happened? Soda sales dropped. Water sales went up. Nobody felt forced. Nobody felt like they were dieting. They just grabbed what was easiest. You can do this in your life. Be the designer of your world, not the consumer of it. Stop fighting your environment. Fix it. If you are trying to study English but your phone is buzzing every 5 seconds, you are fighting a losing battle. Turn it off. Put it in a drawer. If you are trying to lose weight, but your kitchen is full of junk food, you are fighting a war you cannot win. Throw it away. Don't rely on willpower. Willpower is a battery. It runs out. Environment is a wind. It pushes you forever. Create a wind that pushes you toward your dreams. Part 6. The dark side of habits. We have talked about how to build good habits, but we must also talk about how to break bad ones, because you cannot fill a cup that is already full of poison. Why do we have bad habits? Why do we scroll for hours? Why do we smoke? Why do we overeat? It's not because we are stupid. It's because those habits solve a problem. They solve the problem of stress. They solve the problem of boredom. They solve the problem of loneliness. Your brain is not your friend. It doesn't care about your dreams. It only cares about saving energy and feeling good right now. When you are stressed, your brain says, "Eat chocolate. It will make you feel better." And it works for 5 minutes. But then you feel worse. To break a bad habit, you must make it difficult. James calls this increasing friction. If you want to watch less TV, unplug the TV after every use. Take the batteries out of the remote. Put the remote in a different room. Now, if you want to watch TV, you have to walk to the other room, get the remote, put the batteries in, and plug in the TV. That is friction. That tiny bit of effort is enough to make your lazy brain say, never mind. Read a book instead. If you spend too much money online, delete your credit card information from the browser. Make yourself type it in every single time. Make the bad habit hard. Make the good habit easy. It sounds simple, but simple things are often the hardest to do because they require honesty. You have to admit that you are lazy. You have to admit that you are weak. And then you have to design a system that protects you from your own weakness. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. Part 7. The climax. You versus you. Now we are reaching the end of the story. But this is where the real battle happens. You have the tools. You know about the one. You know about the ice cube. You know about the 2-minute rule. You know about identity votes. But knowing is not doing. Why do you go back to the old you? Why do you ruin your own progress? Because you are still carrying the story that you are not a morning person or bad at English. You are fighting a war against your own reflection. There will be days when you want to quit. There will be days when the plateau feels like a prison. There will be days when life hits you in the face with a baseball bat, just like it hit James. What do you do then? The amateur waits for motivation. The professional builds a system. The amateur says, "I don't feel like it today." The professional says, "I don't feel like it, but I will do it anyway." Because the professional knows that a bad workout is better than no workout. A bad page of writing is better than a blank page. Broken English is better than silence. James Clear says missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. If you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Don T. say, "I failed. I might as well give up." No, get back on track immediately. Never miss twice. That is the rule of the elite. That is the rule of the British cycling team. That is the rule of the man who rebuilt his brain. When you decide to be the designer of your world, your posture changes. You stop being a consumer. You start being a creator. You feel the power of choice returning to your hands. You realize that you are not the victim of your life. You are the author, and you write the story one sentence at a time, one habit at a time, one vote at a time. The secret is out. You don't need a new life. You just need a new one. The door to your future is not locked, it's just heavy, and you move it 1 inch every day. Conclusion. The legacy of the one. As we close this story, I want you to think about James Clear one last time. Think about the boy in the hospital bed. The boy who couldn't remember the year. The boy who couldn't breathe. He didn't know he would write a best-selling book. He didn't know he would inspire millions of people. He just knew he had to clean his room. He just knew he had to sleep early. He just knew he had to cast a vote for the person he wanted to be. And that is all you need to know. If you do nothing, 1 year from now you will be in the same room, with the same regrets, watching the same time slip away. No growth, no change, just the silence of a life that could have been. That is the tragedy, not failure, stagnation. But if you start today, if you choose one small thing, one tiny habit, one improvement, then 1 year from now, you will be a different person. You will look back at this moment and smile. You will see the roots you planted today have become a forest. You have no idea what 365 days of one can do. You think you are stuck. You are not. You are a masterpiece in progress. I believe in your system. I believe in your capacity to change. Not because you are special, but because you are human. And humans are built to adapt. We are built to grow. We are built to rise from the ashes of our old selves. So now pick up your book, fix your schedule, cast your first vote, and start your one again. Because the person you wish to become is waiting for you to arrive. Don't keep them waiting. Start now. And remember, real change is not loud. It is quiet. It is the sound of a pen writing on paper. It is the sound of running shoes hitting the pavement. It is the sound of you choosing a better life, one small moment at a time. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, if it gave you a spark, then do one thing for me. Don't just close this video and scroll to the next one. Stop. Choose your habit. Write it down and do it for 2 minutes. Right now. That is how you honor this story. That is how you honor yourself. Stay strong.